Another one.
Says, how do you structure your automated tests? Right? So that's our question. And it goes, I was talking to a dev about automated tests recently, and we were discussing different ways of structuring our tests, and I was curious how other people do it. Let me give you a scenario. We have a device that we want to apply different statuses to. We want to go through the different statuses and validate they are set correctly. The original test set up the device. The original test set up the device, set the test, verified the status, cleared the status, and verified the status was cleared. Then proceeded to do this for each status. Our framework will stop a test on any failure. So if the first status fails, the rest won't run. This is good for when everything works, but if one thing fails, we don't know if one or multiple things are broken. The other option is to make each status its own test. I could have a suite set up to make the device and a teardown or to delete it, or I could create and delete them individually for each test. There is more overhead to create and delete the device for each test, but it prevents the device from being in a bad state from a possible failed test. Anyways, I'm just curious to see what other people do. So that is an amazing question. That is a battle that I have had since I started automation testing. But it's all about strategy, right? So let's get our timer started. And okay, so how do we structure this test? So your car is saying make each test log each status every test. That is what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking, right? Because I also say there are different types of tests. And I think that these status tests, they can also be incorporated in like unit tests and stuff like that. Um, I'm not sure what type of devices that you're testing, but it depends on what the device is doing, to be honest. What I would do, there are end-to-end tests that you can run to, all right, like you said, one type of test you're doing where you are setting like each status is going through the workflow. But if it fails, everything else fails. But you should have a beginning test, like a setup that runs at the beginning of every test that wipes the device to a brand new status, like from the very beginning. That's what I always do because you can't allow whatever your test is to be stuck in a particular state. So what I would say is for your end-to-end test, you're going to say, all right, because we want one or two tests to go through each flow. And if everything runs great, perfect. But if something doesn't work, you want to know because do the other statuses even matter if one step fails? So if the device gets in a bad state, when you start to run the new test, you say, all right, you do at the beginning and at the end. I've done this before in the past. At the beginning, I reset the device. And at the end, I also reset the device so that regardless of when it's running, the device is reset and then you can start fresh, clean tests. So that's my end-to-end test scenario because I do want end-to-end tests. Not many of them, but I do want end-to-end tests because you need to know that the whole workflow works. You can't have any gaps in the workflow. So what if you can get the device in the status of like, I don't know, approved or whatever, but you can't get to the one before that. So it doesn't even matter if you can get to approved. Now, the other part, and it's tedious, but would you rather have easy, less complicated tests, but it doesn't work? Or would you want to have more overhead, but you know that your application, your software, your device works as it should? See, I lean on the latter side because I don't want to have our software, like our critical core functionality not working. So you're gonna have to spend the extra time, you're gonna have to go with the extra overhead to have comprehensive tests. So on the other option, when you're making each test its own, like each status its own test, you definitely want to do that. Say, okay, and you want to have multiple tests in each of those status. So when I get to whatever the first status is, you might have, it's closer to more of a unit test. You might have like 10 different tests testing that one particular status, and that's good. Now you might have another 10 different tests testing the next status, and that's good, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And that's how I do my automations. Like if I'm doing like a web automation, a mobile automation, whatever. I'm having like these little integration component tests for this particular functionality. So around these little different statuses and stuff, I might have 5-10 tests, like saying all the little, and I do that a lot with API tests, all the different statuses, all the different codes, the validations, all of that. And then when I go for like an end-to-end test where I'm going, all right, the whole pipeline, I'm only going to be checking for different. So I'll give an example real quick. So if I'm testing a website application and I want to check out the checkout process, right? End-to-end checkout, I would probably go, okay, I go to the homepage, I click on a product, or I go to the homepage, I click on a category, I click on a product in that category, then I click on add to cart, and then I would go to check out as a guest, but whatever the top flow is, check out as a guest, check out as a returning customer, whatever, and then I log in, and then I enter the credit card information, fake credit card information, of course, and I get all the way to the end. I either get a confirmation page or I get a credit card denied page, right? However the application works. And then another case would be like going through a similar workflow, but instead of maybe I can do like add to wish list, and then from the wish list, add it to the cart, and then now check out as a new customer, or as whatever I did the first time, I do a different flow. And then I get into and then now when I get to checkout, maybe I do checkout as a gift card or shipping to a different address, whatever those core functionalities are, right? That's my end-to-end test. But my little tests in between, I'm having unit tests, I'm having API tests, I'm having all these little tests that test all the little functionalities that it would take forever to do that full end-to-end test, which if let's say adding a product to the cart, something happens with that product, that means I don't actually get to checking out, like doing all the checkout stuff, but there are little tests that I can do for around validation, but I still want my full end-to-end test as well. So that is a little bit of insight into how the testing methodology goes. It's different from how developers would test like their unit tests. There is a whole framework to testing. Hopefully that insight helps Sydney as well. But that is my mentality when it comes to testing. You need both. It's not an or statement. It's an and statement. I need my end-to-end tests. That if they break, we can investigate that breakage. But I also want to have like those little unit tests and component tests, because now I can compare the two. Because if the end-to-end test fails at status A, and my little unit test fails at they pass, like 5 tests pass for status A, but like 5 tests fail. So now I have a good understanding of where that falls into place. It's this part of this status is good, but now what's breaking is at like these other 5, and we need to investigate that. We need to create defects and stuff like that and report that and get that fixed up, right? So that is my thought. That is how I would approach the testing strategy for, like, that's how I structure my automated tests, all right? So that being said, let's wrap that one up.
I walked in the room, felt like a king. With my polished resume, I thought I could swing. They asked me about skills I claim to know, but deep down inside, my mind was moving slow. A smile on my face, but I felt it beneath. The truth creeping in, yeah, it stole all my belief. Caught in the lie, what a tangled web I weave. Thought I was slick, but they just wouldn't believe. Next week they'll call, I already know the score. I'm just hoping they won't slam the closing door. They nodded politely, asked me a lot, but every single answer, man, I just got caught. Thought I had it confidence on high. Now I'm just a fish lost in the sky. As I left the room, I could feel the weight. A decision was brewing, and it felt like fate. Caught in the loud, what a tangled web I weave. Thought I was slick, but they just wouldn't believe. Next week they'll call, I already know the score. I'm just hoping they won't slam the closing door. The closing door. Now here's my lesson, clear as can be. Honesty's the way, yeah, that's the key. The closing door. I walked in the room, felt like a king. With my polished resume, I thought I could swing. I walk in the light, what a tangled web I weave. Ooh, thought I was slick, but they just wouldn't believe. Next week they'll call.